Welcome to the next in our series on handling the word. We're going to be thinking about bringing it together this evening, how you bring a message together. But just before we do, let me just read a few verses just to emphasize why this is important, what we're doing. Romans 10 and verse 14 says, "How then will they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how are they to believe in him of whom they have never heard? And how are they to hear without someone preaching? And how are they to preach unless they're sent? As is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news." We're looking at this, we're involved in this because it's so important. People hear about Christ, hear the message of salvation, and come to embrace Christ. And we need to be involved in sharing that. We need to be those indeed who are willing and able to share the word of God. In Hebrews 5 and 12, it says this: "For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the basic principles of the oracles of God. You need milk, not solid food." And the writer there is frustrated because there's people who have received so much, they should be going on and teaching, but they're holding back. So it's important that we take this seriously. So as we think about bringing it together this evening, we have considered when we approach a passage a number of things we need to do in preparation. We thought about how it's important, first of all, read over the passage quite a few times to get a grasp of the passage, and even as we're going about to be thinking about that passage, to think about the theme of the book that the passage is in. For example, in Mark, the healing of the paralyzed man, or Jesus calming the storm, it's in a book about it's the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. So when you understand that the purpose of Mark is to reveal Jesus Christ, the Son of God, that helps you as you look at these different passages within it. Take time to read the passages in detail. Remember what I did? I sort of print out the sheets of the passage, maybe double line spacing, and write wee notes on it, maybe read questions on it, and see what happens. It's important to take time to do that. That's one of the most important things in preparing a talk, taking time to go through the passage bit by bit. So you take little notes on it, and then consider the themes in the passage. What are the different themes that run through a passage, and what is the main theme out of it? So, so that's what you do. You read the passage over a number of times. You consider what's the theme of the book that the passage is in. Take time to look at the passage in detail. Take notes, and then consider the themes in the passage and what the main theme is. So, what do you do after next? You've read your passage. You've studied a wee bit. What do you do in the next stage? Well, I think the next thing is investigating key words or phrases in the passage. In Mark 2, in the healing of the paralyzed man, Mark 2, 1 to 12, the key things that could come up there could include being forgiven, uh, blasphemy, the word perceiving, Jesus perceiving what they thought, authority, the phrase Son of Man, amazed, and glorified. Those are some of the things, the themes that come up. So you maybe take time to think about what's the significance of these words, and what does that bring about. So that's some of the themes that are through it as well. But those are key words and phrases to maybe investigate a bit further. Uh, I use a tool called eSword. You can download it onto your computer, a tablet, or phone. It's free. The basic part of it is free. I use the thing KJV, King James Version Plus, on it, and you can go into it. It's in the King James Version, but you can click in particular words, and it then will tell you what the Greek word is. For example, if you go into Mark 2 and verse 5, and you click on the word forgiven, it'll tell you it's the intensive form of to go. It means from to send forth. In various applications, it means cry, forgive, forsake, lay aside, leave, let alone, be, go, have, omit, put away, remit, suffer, yield, yield up, and things like that. And when you look at that, one of the things that comes out, forgiven means sent away. Your sin is sent away. So sometimes when you do just dig into a word, what it was in the original, it just gives you an extra wee insight into it, which is helpful indeed. So investigate keywords or phrases. Uh, then reading a study Bible, couple that we have in the house, which I find very useful. The ESV Study Bible is very good, or the New Geneva Study Bible. They just give little notes. You read through them, gives you a quick summary on what the teaching is, and teach you some of the things in some of the little passages. For example, that verse in Mark 2 where Jesus says to the paralyzed man, "Your sins are forgiven." It says this in the New Geneva Study Bible. Jesus claims for himself the power to forgive sins, which in the Bible can be attributed only to God. And it gives a couple of references: Exodus 34 and 7, Isaiah 1 verse 18. You can look them up, and that gives you a wee bit of background to this truth that only God can forgive sins. Then reading commentaries. These help to guide us about what a passage means, to bring maybe out of the passage ideas that we might have missed, give us understanding to maybe some words or things we struggle to understand. Uh, I would read the commentaries and underline or write we notes in the margin of the commentary, and then after I've done that, I would read over the commentary, the underlying bits again, which are things of significance. Commentaries can range from being very devotional and maybe don't get into much detail of what the passage is saying, to very technical, which is a lot of detail. I think something in the middle is good, something that has some devotion, but does teach what the passage is. Uh, I've recommended different commentary series there in the notes. Probably one just to give you one, the Wesleyan commentary series is an excellent one, which I find uh, is very easy to read and is of good value as well. So comedies help give us insight and understanding, and we can quote from the comedies when we're teaching. But our messages are not to be just regurgitating what commentaries say. No, no. Our message is to be what God and His Spirit lays upon our heart as we study His Word. Commentaries help us and guide us, but it's not just a matter of regurgitating what the different commentaries say. It's what God lays on His heart as we teach that passage. And then, so you've read the passage yourself, you've studied the passage yourself, you looked at the commentaries and that. The next thing is working out the title and the points within what your message will be. You're trying to get like a skeleton of a structure in regards to what your message will be from the passage you've read. Uh, Now, this is not the only way to do it, heading and then subpoints. It's not the only way to do it, but I think it gives you good structure in your message, and I think giving points helps people to remember. Now, as a joke, Presbyterians have 3 points. Always no, it can be sometimes two, it can be four, five, maybe, and so it can be different. So, going through a passage, for example, like Mark 2, the healing of paralyzed man, when you're trying to break the passage up into points, you'll find that there will be a few verses and that then can be summarized by a point. And then the next few verses can be summarized by another point, and so forth as you work your way through a passage. And sometimes it flows very well. The first few verses, there's a point there, then the next few, another point, and so forth. Sometimes it works that way, sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes a passage can have themes which are interweaved through it, so it doesn't just points just don't come out of one section of verses in another. It can be a bit more challenging than that. But you try and work out what are the main points of the passage that are to be taught. And then you need a title. Sometimes you'll get the title at the beginning when you see what the main theme of the passage is. Sometimes you'll work on the main points and then come back to get your title in that. So uh, it's good to do that. I think it's good. So once you get your heading and then your points, then you have your very basic outline of what your message is going to be. And then bringing it together, bringing the message together. Well, under each of the points is filling out the truth that is being taught and how that will apply to people. So, truth about uh, what is the passage saying, and then you have to think, well, what's the passage say about Jesus? What's it saying about God? So, remember what we said before: uh, explain a passage, apply the passage to Jesus or God, and then apply it to the hearer. So, in the different points, you can do that. What's being taught? What does it teach about God? What does it teach about Jesus? And how does that apply then to people? What's God wanting the people to learn from that or to do? And when you've got your sort of passage, you sort of worked out your good outline of it, uh, you can then put in together some illustrations into it to in order to help explain or emphasize what is being said. So some good illustrations, maybe from your personal experience, some from other parts of the Bible, or things you've heard, which can help make the passage alive a bit more. And then sometimes you could do this at the beginning, but quite often the end, work out what your introduction. So after you say maybe what your uh, title is for your sermon or your talk, uh, work out a wee introduction, and then so sometimes that'll happen after you've done your points and you've done most of your sermon. You do it at the end, or sometimes you can do it earlier on, and then you'll work out maybe a conclusion, just to how the passage ends, how what's the final word you want people to take from it? Is it a challenge, an encouragement, or whatever it is? So you get your heading and your points. You then fill in the gaps with the teaching, how it applies to God, how it applies to people. Get some illustrations in there. Get an introduction and conclusion, and you're pretty much got it. Pretty much got your message well on the way. We're going to do two exercises now on two passages, and sort of see how we would what we would take from them as the main teaching from them. Genesis chapter 3 and then Mark chapter 2, which you've mentioned before.